So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today you have me. Now, this is the second episode in a mini series that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, where I'm going to cover off certain topics and themes that come up a lot with both my clients in my coaching programs, the guys that I talk to online, and also the topics that we cover in the podcast when I speak to client alumni, current clients every single week. The last one I did was called The Real Reason You Can't Build Discipline. This week, I'm going to talk about habits. And so the title is The Real Reason You Can't Build Habits. And it's a similar theme, but it's a really important one. Now, why would I want to talk about habits? Most of the gentlemen that I speak to, they're often not in a great way, stressed, overwhelmed with work, not healthy, maybe drinking a bit too much to take the edge off things, short, snappy, and irritable at home. This kind of background level of I've got all the things I wanted on paper, the life, the car, the house, the wife, the kids, the family, the career, but underneath it, not as happy and as content as they would like. Some gents really quite not happy because they're overweight, stressed, unhealthy, not showing up as they want, not making commitments to themselves that they're keeping. And others, maybe not quite as extreme as that, just this background level of, I don't feel quite right and I'm not as happy and as content as I'd like to be. And I don't quite know why. And often when we peel back the onion and look a little bit deeper, there is behaviors or habits that aren't happening that they agree that they need to implement. And so a lot of what I work on, not the only thing, is building healthy habits for my clients, because more often than not, if we're not feeling great, it's because we aren't taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally. And we often have compounding, in inverted commas, bad habits that aren't serving us. So we want to build healthy ones because you are the sum product of your daily actions, habits, behaviors, and choices. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And all the things that build up within your day that you do, you are a sum product of that. Your energy, your focus, your headspace, how you feel, how you look, your health. And so what we want to sit underneath is a suite and plethora of healthy habits and behaviors that are serving us. So we want to build healthy habits. And especially if we're not feeling great, as I've just described, we want to replace probably some of the negative ones with some healthier behaviors and habits. But often guys struggle to do that. And it's a bit of a, I guess, dichotomy, because some of the things that we know we need to do seem very obvious, but we really struggle to be able to implement them and do them. And so what I want to do is cover off and run through what some of those habits, behaviors are, but more importantly, why they don't happen and what holds us back. Because once we shine a light on that, then we know what we need to do in order to put the habits in place to make the changes that we want to show up and behave as we want to do. So I think one of the first issues and one of the main ones is we set the bar far, far too high. So something I hear a lot, let's say, for example, I've got a client that isn't able to be consistent with exercise. They're trying to do some exercise, some training, and it's just not happening. And like, well, I'm so busy, I'm flat out. There's no way I can get to the gym, 2 hours every day. At the end of the day, stops. Therefore, you can't exercise. And so they want the habit of regular exercise. That's the habit that we want. The bar is, okay, I need to commit to an hour or more most evenings, going somewhere separate from my house after work per se, to do that. Once we say that, that becomes impossible, right? And rightly so. A lot of guys I work with, spending an hour and a half to go to a gym, to travel, or wherever at the end of a working day is pretty difficult. So that's where it stops. So therefore, we can't build the habit of regular exercise. Now, what I would say there is the bar has been set far too high. If I then said, could you do one push-up when you get out of bed first thing in the morning? The answer, of course, for everyone would be yes, of course I can. Now, that seems like quite a trite, basic example, but it highlights that, well, no, we can build the habit of exercise. It's a very small habit. It's a very small behavior there, but we've gone from impossible to totally possible, because what we've done is lower the bar. Now, a big area of this, I think, where a lot of us also come unstuck, which speaks into this, is ego. Because of ego, well, that's not a lot. What's the point? Well, let's stretch out a little bit. And let's say maybe you could commit to doing 10 push-ups every morning over a week. That's 70 push-ups that you did that you wouldn't have done. And this is just exercise, by the way. There's much more going on than just exercise, but it'll highlight the point. And so straight away, by lowering the bar, making something that's totally achievable and committable to, we can start to build the habit of regular exercise. Now, in my experience, that example we're just giving there, if you've done 10, you might want to do more, but it gets your foot in the door and we can start to leverage that open. And it also starts to work against another common problem, which comes up a lot, which is this defeatist thinking. Like, I don't have time, I can't do that, I'm too busy. And all of those statements, while on the face of it are true, we are too busy. I've got 3 kids, I run a business, I'm married, like I've got loads going on as well. I'm not saying this because I'm perfect and I get everything right 24/7. That is not the case either. But equally, if I just said I'm too busy to do any exercise, to make time for my headspace and mindset, to be present and do the things I need to do to show up as I want, well, then that's it. I'm just too busy. But then if we go, maybe I'm too busy to do some of the things I think I need to do. But if I take a step back and look at, well, actually, there's a plethora of behaviors I could do which aren't quite as high as the bar that I think it needs to be, and we lower that, well, then we're off to the races and we can start to build in those foundations. And so I think the issue here is that more often than not, when we're on our own and left to our own devices, we've got a mode of operating which we think is going to serve us, which we need to do to feel better, look better, show up better. We try and brute force it into our lives, but it ultimately becomes impossible because it's too big to fit the habit and behavior that we want. So therefore we say, no, fuck it, I can't do it. It's impossible. Now, if we were to take a step back and look more holistically and look at what you can do, well, there's a whole world of possibility there. So I might say I want to come home and be really present with my kids, but work's so crazy. I've got so little time. There's no way I can come home calm and grounded, right? It's impossible. Done. There we go. Well, could you, before you leave work, put pen to paper for 5 minutes just before you shut your laptop to write down all the stresses that are going through your head to decompress when you walk through the door? And could you set a boundary around your phone use where you don't look at your phone, until all the kids are in bed, right? You go, yeah, that's probably possible. So straight away, there's something we can do there. It's not insurmountable. You don't have to quit your job. You don't have to completely change everything that you're doing. And so if we start to look throughout your life and day and week, holistically across the whole board, we'll start to see that there are lots of areas where we can do something. It might not be the thing that we really want to do or we think we ought to do, but there's something. And so for me, the real reason most people and most clients I work with can't build habits that they want that last is they set the bar far too high. So they're trying to achieve something that isn't actually possible. They then might try and do that. They might be able to white knuckle it for a day or two, and then life gives them the finger and it all falls over. They're back to square one again. They say it's impossible. Whereas actually, if we were to just lower the bar slightly, park their ego, commit to doing something that's 100% possible and build from there, well, then you all open up a whole world of opportunity hitherto unseen. And I think that's where, in my experience, the main issue is. And I think the other thing is that these small habits and behaviors, these what I would call foundational behaviors, they don't sound sexy. They're not particularly cool, right? And so we think, well, what's the point and what's that going to do? But again, that's that defeatist thinking, because actually those small basic foundations around how you behave, how you think, how you operate, how you move, what you put in your mouth, really small foundations, they set you up because when they compound over time, you start to feel better, look better, operate better, and show yourself, oh, I can have habits that serve me. I can do these things. It is totally possible. I might need to rethink a little what I think I need to do. But once we do that, again, the world's your oyster. Now, the other thing is, a lot of clients say to me, well, I sort of know what I need to do, but I just don't do it. And so at a high level, that might be true, i.e., they want to be more present, be more balanced at home. They want to be fitter and healthier. So I want to be on my phone less. I want to drink less. I want to sit and listen to my missus at the end of the day when she's had a stressful day and so have I. I want to do some regular exercise. I want to eat healthily. They try and implement it, but it doesn't happen. So then it's like, or they try and implement what they think they need to do, which may have been an operating manual from back in their 20s, but they're not 20 anymore. the 40 plus with one to many kids and a very busy, hectic senior job and all the other trappings that come with the lives that we lead these days. So rather than saying, I know what I need to do, part of it's about parking at its most basic. You know what you need to do: be on your phone less, eat a little bit less, move a little bit more, drink less, manage your stress more appropriately. But the methods by which you would normally do that aren't working. So what we need to do is look at more basic, simple, core, steady, fundamental ways to do that. And once you start to do that, again, the world's your lobster, as Del Boy would say, and you're off to the races. The main area most people get stuck is what they're trying to do is insurmountable and not possible. Therefore, they stop. And then the lovely self-sabotage word and perfectionist word comes in, because perhaps you managed to string together a day or two or even a week of some habits that kind of working. It's been a bit brute force, so you're just about managing it. And then life gets in the way, as it always does. You have to work late, so you don't exercise in the morning. So then you eat some shit and you shout at your kids because you're short and snappy because what's happened? Fuck this, what's the point? Boom. I can't even do it anyway. Back to square one. Now that perfectionist thinking, that's like driving down the road and you get a puncture. Like, shit. So you jump out and stab the other 3 tires. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Put the knife down. Let's get out the metaphorical puncture repair kit, fix that, and keep moving forward. But when we're on our own sometimes and we're trying this stuff and then life hits you in the face and you tried your best and it goes back to square one again, our ego doesn't like that. It knocks us over. It's impossible to build these habits. And so then we just fuck it all off, hit the fuck it button. What we need to be able to do to ourselves is be resilient, recognize and look at what's happened, use that quote unquote problem as an opportunity to interrogate why the habits you were doing fell over and didn't work in the first place, course correct that and keep moving forward. But again, if we're setting the bar too high, we don't actually have a lower bar that we think we can fit in with the vicissitudes of life and all the madness. You try and do the big thing, doesn't work, fails, fuck, piece of shit, you stop, back to square one again. And so then we repeat that feedback loop of trying to implement things that don't fit. And the reality here is it's all completely possible. But when we try and build habits for ourselves, we often set the bar too high. We have an operating manual from the past that isn't fit for purpose anymore. And so you get stuck in that feedback loop. And then because you have the inbuilt perfectionist self-sabotage mindset, when you try it and it fails, you just say, fuck it, and you're back to square one. So all of that milieu is going on in the background when we're trying to build healthy behaviors into our lives. For me, the way we get around this and the way you can get around this is really quite simple. You take a step back, look holistically, and start really fucking small with some very tiny foundational habits and behaviors that you can 100% commit to. You can nail no matter what. Now, your inner ego will be like, that's not much. What's the point? It's not going to do anything. Well, if we've shown ourselves on repeat that we try things, doesn't happen, it fails again, you're going round and round in a feedback loop. It's what is quoted from Einstein anyway, the definition of madness, doing the same thing over and again and expecting a different result. Keep doing that. Perhaps maybe you need to park your ego and look at what small, tiny, incremental behaviors that you can 100% commit to and build from there. And then what that does is, let's say over a week, you commit to 2 or 3 small foundational habits that you can totally commit to that look holistically about how you feel, how you look, how you operate. You commit to those, you nail them over a week. Well, that's a fundamentally more empowered place to operate from than try a load of shit, hang on for 2 days, falls over, I'm a piece of shit because I fucked it all up, back to square one again. And so once you build and get those foundational basics in, well, then you're off to the races. And then it's like, okay, where next? Where can we layer and stack some other bits on top of those that we can start to leverage and build that up? And then what you'll find is very quickly, you can build momentum, you can set bigger, more audacious targets, you can build more foundational behaviors on top of those small basics. And in quite a short space of time, you might find you're doing a lot more than you thought was possible because you're looking holistically at what you need to do. You're incrementally building small steps into your life that are helping serve you, that fit in. And then as you go along, when things don't work or fall over, you're doing the course correction. You're not getting the knife out and stabbing the tires. You're getting the puncture repair kit and tweaking it. Well, then you start to have these foundational behaviors that serve you long-term well into the future. But that starts with those small, tiny and incremental basics. And then the magic here is, if you've done this steadily and foundationally and built it up slowly over time and course corrected, when you're doing more stuff that you thought wasn't possible, and then life gives you the finger because life, kids, work, whatever, you know what those basic foundations are, and you know how powerful they were, and you know what they can do for you. So you can fall back to that. And it's not you're doing those and that's a failure, or you do the big shiny stuff and that's good. It's no, they're fit for purpose right now with what's going off with life. And so then that gives you a faint framework and a foundation of behaviors that can ebb and flow with the demands and vicissitudes of life. But for me, this all starts with lowering the bar, parking your ego, telling yourself maybe the road maps and plans and things that I had historically to take care of myself that might have worked in my 20s and my 30s are no longer fit for purpose. And I don't really know what I need to do. Well, and looking at it in a different way, in a small, tiny, incremental way, that's where the magic happens. Now, as a coach and in my coaching programs, that's exactly what we do. And I've got a whole program and programs built around how we facilitate and build those habits up over time. And the other most important part of the habit building is that problem area. When things go wrong, when you're about to get the knife out, for me, that's actually where the magic is. Because yes, there's habits and behaviors we want to build, and they're really important. But if they're not working, A, there's two parts. Maybe they're too big and we need to lower that bar. That's important, and that's what we've been discussing. But B, maybe there's something underneath inherent that's making it misfire that we need to look at and address. What's the fundamental problem that's stopping this in the first place? Well, if we get our knife out and stab the tires, we can't repair it and look. Whereas actually we take a step back and go, well, what's just happened here? Why didn't that happen? Why can't I make this work? And get to the root of that problem. Well, then we can address the fundamental issue. And then ideally that habit that we want will fit in, or we'll adapt it and tweak it. Then we can move forward, but we've addressed the fundamental underneath. And when we address that, that means that foundation is going to be rock solid moving forward because you understand what you need to do. So to wrap this up and summarize, the real reason you can't build habits or habits that last is because you're setting the bar too high. You're a perfectionist when you try and implement them. You're not giving them the time they need to embed. And you're not trusting in the fact that small foundational basics can go a very, very long way. But then when things go wrong, which they will all the time, you're not taking a step back and looking at the issue, asking a few whys to get to the root of it, to correct it and move forward. And for me, all those pieces need to come together in order to get behavior change. And that might sound like a lot, but really it isn't. It's making a couple of small commitments that you can totally commit to, owning those and building from there. Now, as I said, I've got an entire coaching program and business built around how we do that. And then also the more deeper accountability and support inherent in making those changes work. And that's how I get guys come on here 3-4 years later talking about how the whole process has changed their entire lives, because we've looked at the fundamental problems and we've empowered them to become resilient to those problems within their life and looking at the bigger picture. But it all starts with those small, tiny fundamentals. And also, if you want to show up and thrive, like I said right at the start, you're the sum product of your daily actions, habits, behaviors, and choices. We want good behaviors and habits because they result in us as an emergent property, looking good, feeling good, operating well, or the converse, feeling like shit, stressed, overwhelmed, not content, overweight, unhappy. But that's predicated on what you do or don't do every single day. And if we're able to set those foundations and habits well, we thrive. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. Next week, back to business. We've got another client on talking about their experience. And as I said before, I'm going to be pulling these solo episodes on to talk through some of these more fundamental issues. But I hope that's been helpful. And if you're interested in reaching out to see how I can help, message me Blueprint in the comments or send me a DM with Blueprint. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Cheers, guys. Thank you.